Hi all, thanks for joining our local discovery session for IWDS 2.0. I believe this is session 58. Um, we had not met the last 2 weeks. Our IWDS transition team from the SIU side and the state side have been meeting pretty consistently in person over the last couple of months now, actually. And earlier this month, we were 6 days in Bloomington over the course of 2 weeks, and we worked through the customer intake process. We are really, working very hard to get through defining the customer intake process so that we can get that development underway. There are a lot of dependencies for us as it relates to intake. So there's a lot of business logic that we have to overlay with, having an application started and the various dates and things like that. So we really want to get that application, an entire intake process ironed out so we can get that into development to remove dependencies to allow us to continue to build out in the career planning and outcomes section of the system. We do have development in areas started in those, but we're kind of at a standstill on those until we can start overlaying more items into the system to connect those dependencies that we're going to have. So we have a lot of information to go over with you guys today regarding intake. We've been hitting that really hard, and I'm excited to kind of show you where we've landed through all of our conversations and get feedback. We've kind of presented it to you along the way as we have ideas. So some of this you guys are probably already going to be familiar with. But before I go into that, I will provide a project update with where we're at in the overall project. So we are in our first week of Sprint 37. Our developers are currently working in some technical updates to our pipelines. We have the negotiated goals feature built, and now we're migrating the IWDS data into that. Location mapping, we are making some updates to some SIPS codes stuff. We are starting the foundational work to get the ability to add services to customers into the system. We have some training program updates we're making, training program approval flows we're working on. We have started the foundational work for the pre-screening for a customer. We are making some updates to the career plan electronic signature. We're also working on goals and objectives for a customer's career plan. We have some final work that we're going to be doing on that next sprint. So we're working on it this sprint and then next sprint. And then I do hope to get that in front of you all in UAT in about 4 weeks for you guys to start, testing and using to get that feedback. We are also working on building an outcomes page within the customer profile. So we're just building the basic UI as we start working to define all the components, such as, exits, documenting employment and credentials and measurable skill gains and all of that. We're just setting up the UI like structure so that as we start defining that, we have a place in the customer profile to put it. We're also creating an info bubble management feature that allows us to manage the info bubble text without the need of a developer every time we need to change text. And then we also have some technical user management updates that we're making as well. Currently in active discovery, we have started conversations about eligibility certification. We will be bringing that to some of our discovery sessions to talk to you all about in the coming weeks. We are also working on getting some pre-screening and application content. We have the flow, but we're still working on defining a lot of that, results page or informational emails that we would send out. You will hear very soon, we're going to be building a public-facing welcome page for job seekers to help facilitate a self-service entry point. And we'll talk more about that, but we have started some discovery on what that's going to look like from the state perspective to get that vision defined. We have been having a lot of conversation on assessments and how we can do that better in IWDS 2.0. We're going to continue to have those, and we'll be looping you all in as we get a vision pretty well defined. We've been working on employment credentials and education outcome discovery. So some of our outcome work, I'm sure Taylor will be bringing that to you all as we continue to wrap that up with the state. And then MSG Business Logic, we have the MSG tool, but now we are starting to look more at the business logic and ways we can streamline the MSG entry into the system, if there's ways we can auto assume that or make it more streamlined. So if we know something, that it's getting in there without having to manually add some of that. So we're having those conversations as well. I'm going to pause right here and see if you guys have any questions on project update before I move on to our working session. Okay, so our working session today, I'm going to review the intake flow with you all. I'm going to grab one more board to open. So one of the things we have been doing while we have been working through this intake is we have built personas for various types of customers and have been walking through the process as these personas. We are going to be building these personas out for you all and our state testers to use during UAT. We want to make sure that our intake is working for a large array of users, and we're being mindful of that as we're walking through the process. So we have a couple of different flows. We have Terrence, who's an out-of-school youth. We define them. We have more information about them, but we have like a high-level summary of who Terrence is. We also have Jasmine, an in-school youth. We've been working with Maria, a dislocated worker. We have other personas that we've created as well. But I'm going to be looking at these three with you all today. So let me jump back over. Well, we'll start with Maria. So we have a couple different ways that a customer could engage the intake process for WIOA. And there's three main ways. So a customer, we have Maria comes in to the front door. She finds her way to the Title I area. We know that some of you guys, they might be greeted by, another title first and get directed to you guys. And then once we identify that Maria is interested in receiving WIOA services, that she didn't accidentally end up there and just needs to use the bathroom or needs, she stops at IWDS, but we identify this as a customer that we're going to serve. Then there's a couple different ways that the system can handle how Maria would start engaging. And I do quickly want to note, early on, we had talked to you guys about the possibility of a CRM and you guys adding everybody into the system and it trying to facilitate that. As we continue to talk through that CRM process, we decided that is not necessarily an MVP out of the gate feature that we're going to have. We may look to build onto this to have an easier way to capture everybody initially, but not for our July 1 date. So our go live date. So what we're doing is we no longer have that. And I just wanted to be clear. So folks, I know we've mentioned it, but I know not everybody's on every call. So we're not looking to become a CRM for anybody that is coming into the office yet, but that is something we do have for a future version that we would like to explore. So Maria comes in and the system's going to support two different ways of Maria starting the intake process. Maria could start by having a front desk person add her in as a customer record into the system by doing the duplicate search. Maria's not in there, adding her into the system. and then she can engage the system as an IWDS user. The system will check to see if she's already in there. If she is, we have her record. And then from her record in IWDS, career planners can start pre-screening and applications and all of that stuff with Maria. And through that process, like when we're starting pre-screenings, it facilitates the ability to send Maria a link to complete it on her own or do it right there with Maria. So this, I think I'm in like my test, Olivia, but I'm like a customer in IWDS, and a career planner and front desk staff can interact with the customer through the system, and then allow her to get a link via her email, and she can go away and start the pre-screening and application. Or if she needs help, somebody to sit down and do it with her, there's that option as well. We also have the ability to provide, this is the newer flow. So we, have some of this started, just framework stuff started here, to get Maria in the system and start that pre-screening process. The new flow that we have developed over the last couple of weeks is we are going to create a welcome page that will be linked off of the main Illinois WorkNet homepage. They're wanting to redo the main Illinois WorkNet homepage a little bit, and there would be a link there for job seekers to go to a welcome page that would provide, we're still fleshing out the welcome page, like look and feel and how it would work, but they'd come into a page, it'd give some like overview, welcome text, and then provide information on various areas. So they could click on, it wouldn't be these, but this is an example. They would have like these various areas they could click on to learn more information and be linked to self-service resources. Or if they're interested in more like staff assisted help or services, we're going to work on the wording of it, because we know our customers don't know the difference between self and staff assisted. It's all in how we phrase it. But if they're interested in more and would like to complete the intake process and do the pre-screening, they can complete a form, or they'll put in some basic information about themselves. Our form is going to be a little different. This is just like a visual concept. Our form is going to collect some basic information like first name, last name, email, phone, zip, and what area they're wanting help in. And they can get to this welcome page by, going through, just finding it on their own through Illinois WorkNet. We can provide QR codes, like at the front desk at the centers, folks can scan and do it on their phone. We can have the welcome page linked on the computers. There's a lot of ways that we can get this self-service page in front of our customers to use. After they complete the submit form, after they learn about the information, it's also going to have a welcome video. I kind of skipped over that. So it'll have a welcome video here. We'll let them embed it into the sub pages as necessary, and then have a way for them to access the pre-screening. When they complete that, submit form, we're going to check, we're going to pass that through to IWDS. We're going to check the system to see if that customer's email is already in IWDS, if we have a direct record tied to that customer. If we do, then we will send an email to them knowing that they are an IWDS customer and attach that ID and have them move through, provide them an email with a link to start the pre-screening that would be tied directly to their customer profile. If they don't already have an email in IWDS, they're not a record in there, we can't confirm that, we're going to store them as a pre-record. We're going to create a new table to store them as a pre-record, and the state is going to have somebody manage that pre-record table to review for potential duplicates and determine if we put them into a new customer record, or if there's a duplicate in there we can merge them with. And then we will also tie that pre-record table to the process you all go through when you dedupe, so you hit that table as well. and can find a customer that might be a pre-record and pull them in if they happen to come in out an hour after they start this and the state folk has not like already done that step. So we have a lot of work here to streamline the way that we would handle these pre-records, but we're pretty confident. We have a really good plan on how we'll do that and incorporate it in with our current existing duplicate customer process. But we store them as a pre-record and then they get an email or a text message. So we ask them for email or phone. They have to provide one of those. It doesn't have to be both. But however, whatever they give us, if they do give us both, they'll get an email and a text message with a link to the pre-screening. And throughout the entire process that we're engaging them in this intake process, they're going to have the ability to connect with a local office. So we're going to make it very easy for them if at any point they're struggling, like have a button embedded within our pages and then through the emails and stuff. Like if you want to connect with the local office, here's how you find the office closest to you. But if they are comfortable continuing to move forward with things online, they can click that link and it will direct them into a pre-screen, which is housed in IWDS 2.0. So we're saving all the data in IWDS as either a pre-record, or if we did match them with the basic submit information with their customer record. And then they can move into the pre-screening process. We did go over the pre-screening and application process with you all. We have not really changed a whole lot of anything we've reviewed, but we did add a new page. I'm going to pause right here. I see a hand up. So before I go into the new page we added, I'm going to open things up for just questions on this new path that we've flagged. Paul, was that you that had a hand up?
Yeah, on the Miro board right there, the second gray oval there, what is that exactly? How can we help you? Okay, train for a new training job. Okay. I initially kind of thought that was trying to identify which LWIA it was going to be to route them, but that's not. It's you talked about it later, just recently.
Yeah, so if this is just the submit form to get the link to start the pre-screening and be created as a pre-record in the system.
Yeah.
And then they'll get a link with a link to the pre-screening. They'll get an email with a link to the pre-screening. And as part of the email, as well as we want to include a button like in the pre-screening that says like, I need help. And when they click it, it would open a modal that will have, we have, as part of EBS, we've done this. We want to give them the ability, there would be like a text field in here that they could type in zip code and search for an office near them. We wouldn't know the program yet. As we learn more information, we can start filtering down to show them offices tied to the specific programs they're moving through. So as we get some of these pre-screening, we might know they're a youth customer, or dislocated worker, or adult. But we do want to give them the ability to find the closest local office to them if they run into issues doing it online or they have questions. We're always going to have like an opt-out, I need like in-person help feature throughout the whole self-serve process. So they never just get lost in the online world of providing data. Lisa, you have your hand up.
Yeah, where is the orientation in this whole thing?
So we have, go ahead.
Yeah, because I mean, if they click that I need help or I need it in person, like, do they then like how does that all work with respect to them understanding exactly what they need help in? And like, because with the orientation, it kind of gives them a broader overview of everything that's available. Where does that all fit in with this new process?
Yeah, so after they complete a pre-screening, which a pre-screening is a handful of very targeted questions to determine if they potentially will meet minimum eligibility, and they're asked at a high level. After they complete that pre-screening, before they move into doing the full-blown application, they get a recommendation page that provides them like an orientation video. that will give them more information. And the state team is working to collect data on what that'll look like. And we'll work with you all to like finalize that orientation video. The get help throughout here is more somebody is struggling to use a computer to answer some of this stuff, or maybe we wrote all of these questions at a 5th or 6th grade reading level. So we tried to write the questions so they're easy to understand. But as I'm sure as all of you know, as we start getting into some of the dislocated worker stuff and the youth stuff, it does get a little more complex in what we're trying to determine. We did try to write this stuff so folks could easily understand it, but that's really where when they're saying they need help at this point, it's for just completing the pre-screening, not necessarily understanding what is available.
So why would an individual want to complete a pre-screening if I'm just trying to see as a customer, why would they say, oh, this would be appropriate for me?
And that is going to be how we write our welcome page. So when we have our like if they're like, oh yeah, I'm interested in finding a job, we'll have some like basic self-services, like, oh, I just need to update my resume, I'm struggling to update my resume, here's a tool that can help me do that. And then we'll have more information, like for additional information on the like the ways we could staff assist them in doing that. You could submit this form to see if the state's really not wanting to use words like eligible and WIOA because customers don't understand that.
Right.
And we will write it, but essentially if like you're eligible for the program. And the same thing would be true for like further my education. So those staff assisted services, this is more of our youth bucket. And then train for a new career if folks are interested in like training services, staff, the staff assisted ones. We would have, like tuition assistance for approved training programs. If you're interested, submit a form. So that is why they would be submitting these pre-screens, is they're like, oh, these self-services, they're not what I want more. And to get more, they have to submit the form.
Okay, and then one more follow-up question. I know there's different paths for individuals to get in. How do you guys envision, like, let's say the career advisors or the agencies to make sure that people don't fall through the cracks, because they're coming in many different ways, and being able to kind of cross-reference against, oh, they came in this way, oh, they watched the orientation video, this individual didn't come that way, they just filled out the form to come in for an orientation, or this person comes in this way because they completed, like, how do you guys envision making sure that all the different routes are much more seamless for agencies to be able to make sure that people don't fall through the cracks?
So we are going to create, similar to the training program review, we're going to create a pre-record table that is going to be, so when folks come in through IWDS and like the LWIA is entering them into the system, that's kind of very similar to the process you're doing now. So they'll be in the system. As you engage with them, you are able to see, let me show you another table. We're still building this out, so it's not, so we are able to see the completion type as the customer versus if a career planner planned on doing it with them. Let me go back. It is a career planner. We're trying to bring visibility to the ways you had initially planned on engaging with them. And then throughout the entire pre-screening process and application process, regardless of who is doing it with it, like if the customer chose to do it or the career planner can always get in and have access to where that customer is. And so this is more the process you guys are used to, like you've added them into IWDS. Now, when we have this self-service, we're going to have the pre-record tables that are going to be managed by the state to push those into IWDS as needed. And then we're also going to give you guys the ability to, as is you're searching customers. So say Maria started it online, called you guys because she needed help. As you search Maria because she's coming in to get help on the pre-screening, it's going to hit that pre-record table too, so you can find her. You're not duplicating your efforts. It's going to show her as a pre-record and allow you to merge her if you have an existing Maria that she's already in the system, or create her as a new record, and then you will have the same kind of access to her as you would. Let me go back here. She would show here's completion type of self, and you would have access to that to get into where she left off. So maybe she got halfway through, you can pick up exactly where Maria left off. As we move into the application, we're going to have similar processes where their information is in here for you guys to engage with and see how far they have gotten in the process and where they've stopped. The state did say that until the customer is in application, we might have several people start a pre-screen that never complete it, and until it's an application, we're not as concerned about it. So they might sit in those pre-records half done. After 90 days of not engaging with a pre-screen and it hasn't been completed, those will wipe out. We're still like finalizing, is 90 days enough? We have some people on the policy and state side looking a little closer at the date frame, the like time frames we have between things, to see if those make sense, or if in the world that we owe, if we need to expand those to accommodate for people needing to get documentation or different things like that. So we're not going to house a bunch of old uncompleted data, and it's not going to be on you guys to deal with the pre-screens that are sitting not getting done.
But on there where it says pre-screening, does it say anything like, so I'm assuming that because it says not started or whatever the statuses are, that will help us to determine if they have essentially completed the orientation or any of the other steps?
Yeah, so pre-screening doesn't include the orientation. That is going to be as part of application.
Oh, I thought you said once they completed it, then they would have the link for the orientation.
Yep, they have, once they complete pre-screening, then they would do orientation to start application. We can incorporate that into the applications thing too. We can have like a table that says orientation status and verify if they completed that video or not. We have been talking, we haven't quite got into the content pages of this whole flow. So throughout this, we're going to have various content pages that do recommendations, and then, our potentially eligible recommendation. That's where the orientation video comes in. We may not let them start application until they have completed the pre-screen video.
Okay, and then rapid response individuals, would we be able to see them as well that have completed rapid response? Like if they've done the session, would we be able to see them in like a pre-screen or?
Yeah,
is that
so
a totally different process?
rapid response coming in under dislocated worker, is that what you mean?
Well, like an individual, so when they have us go in and kind of do we call it the orientation for rapid response. They did that, therefore they don't have to, go through another orientation, or they just go through to intake at that point.
Yeah.
But is that kind of embedded in this process?
Yeah, we have for in EBS, we have, or for dislocated worker, we're pulling in EBS data, but we're not pulling that in until application. I'll add a note here to see how they want to do that, because we won't have the EBS ID yet to know they did the orientation. We don't collect that until down here. But I see what you're saying.
Right, because we don't want individuals to have to go through things again. We want to make it just easy for them.
Right. I flag that for our consideration as we're making out. We still have a lot of discussion around how the orientation, like the virtual orientation, would look. I see a hand raised, Paul. I will get to you in just a second. I see some questions in the chat. So are the orientation and pre-screening process going to become centralized with this new system? Yes. So that is the goal of being able to put all this into IWDS 2.0 is all customers throughout the LWIA can use this pre-screening process. They can access it either a self-service or like if they prefer, because we know there's some people who want to do everything online, other people who are like, I don't want to use a computer. I need, to engage with a person to do this. So the system facilitates both ways. And then the orientation process, we're working to streamline that and create like a universal orientation process video that the customers can go through. I was wondering that as well. Is the orientation in 2.0 going to be the video you mentioned earlier?
Oh, I think you just answered that,
Yeah.
actually, Lucas. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was typing it and then not realizing that you were answering Omar's question at the same time. Sorry about that one.
That's all right. Yeah, and then we'll have like a high level welcome video on our welcome page that we're gonna aim to be between 1 and 2 minutes, and then we'll have a more detailed orientation video for them to watch right before they complete the application.
So they will be doing an application prior to the orientation, you're saying?
Orientation and then application.
So the clients will be doing some type of access and putting their information into the system, correct?
Yes. They have to complete the pre-screening, then do orientation, then do application.
Okay, that's okay.
I have 2 more comments in the chat. It looked like there was an option for further my education. I don't know if that is intended to be a. The further my education is a more youth specific option. We just came up with those like 3 kind of chunks last week, and they're still kind of like working over that language.
Thank you. You know what? I was completely not even thinking about 1Y youth. So that makes sense. Thank you. Sorry. I admit that hadn't crossed my mind. So thank you. That explains it.
Yeah.
Just something I noticed out of the corner of my eye. I was like, it's probably not now, but like down the road when you're looking to finalize the language on that, I was like, oh, I don't know if that means the same thing, if it's redundant, but now I get it.
Yeah, so they might not be interested in any kind of career or job at this point, just our youth looking to go to college. But yeah, this
or even
language may
GED
change.
or something, or HSC, GED, that could be something that falls under there. Okay, thanks.
And these are going to tie back here in just a second. When we look at the pre-screening, we are building off of that with some other questions. We take this and use it to determine what we're going to ask next. I do have 2 hands and another comment, and then we'll look at that. Will job seekers customers, when filling out these pre-screenings or basic customer screens in Illinois WorkNet, be able to select which OEA they will receive, or will own or the customer? So we're during the pre-screening, they're entering a zip code and we're going to map that. But as we move further along the program, we're going to allow them to designate, like pick the office closest to them or that they want to, that they're planning to work with. And then we can also know after they complete pre-screening, we'll know the potential tracks that they should be going down. Like at this point, we would know, hey, you fit youth, but you're, too young for adult. So we would recommend we will connect to entity management to see the offices that serve the program that they matched with for potential eligibility. and highlight those based on the location information they provide or update. We're going to allow them to change their zip for, we know people's like living situations can be many different things. So just because I live someplace doesn't mean I necessarily want to go to the closest LWIA to that address. I might look to be served somewhere else. Does that answer your guys' question on the?
Yeah, it was more because it's, it's in some LWIAs, they may be able to have the way that their, formula funding is that they prioritize it's live or work in that LWIA, or if it's one county that makes up the LWIA in that county. Right. So yeah, so just so people know, like they may like, hey, I work there. I'm still working part-time after I got laid off my full-time job. Your office is close to where I work. Could I come to your office?
Exactly.
The job of dislocation or separation, to use the WIOA terms, but basically the job that they just lost or that they were working, that they might have gotten laid off from, if that was in our LWIA, like then they can, even if they live, 3 counties over, then we can serve them, we can assist them in that case. So yeah, I just didn't know if like these screening forms, if like a notification gets sent to the LWIA, and I'm probably jumping ahead, sorry, but that like, hey, there's some, at some point, does that pre-screen, does that customer profile get sent or a notification to the LWIA letting them know, or will that customer then say, contact the LWIA directly, the Illinois WorkNet Center that they're going to pursue the services at, and say, hey, I've already filled out the pre-screening online, and that's like, okay, then we can look you up in there. Or does it like get does that customer profile then get forwarded like an alert or a notification to the LWIA, maybe to the local system administrator or something? And then if it could, it just, so it doesn't go to multiple areas and like somebody starts working and entering more information on a customer profile for that person. If we start communicating with them, but then they say, oh, but I'm going to go to the one where I live. So, but I think I understand what you're saying, how that's gonna work. But that was the basis of the question, just to give you the background on why I was asking that. And you did answer a lot of that after I asked the question, so I appreciate that. Like as you were going, you were kind of talking about how that's going to work.
Yeah, we do want to have notifications to the local Title I or the system administrators. So whenever we merge, whenever we have customers who are completing the pre-screening and they're getting put into a full customer record, we will notify the system administrator that new customers have completed pre-screening that are potential matches, so that those folks can be, looked at and targeted to help make sure they're completing the application. We'll also have dashboards. So as they're pushed in and tied to you guys, because there's a pre-record, they're not really tied. But once they get pushed in, they'll be tied to the office that they had designated. And then you guys will have a dashboard too, so you can use your dashboards to help you with outreach. And then for the pre-records, we also want to use those as outreach too. Like people have shown initial intent, but maybe they stop. If you're looking to need to try to engage with more customers, we can look at those pre-screening records, and we do have their zip codes. So we have a general area that the areas are the local areas can start reaching out to see, maybe why they stopped, and use that as like an outreach feature as well. But we will notify as we have customers go from pre-record into record into the system. And we have talked with the LWIA 7 team a little bit too about how we assign them to the correct offices, and the ability to maybe move to have allowed the offices to say, oh, this would actually be better served in this other, local area office, after they review the information, and allowing for that to happen as well. I have a lot of hands up, so I'm going to go, we'll go Paul, Toriana, Omar, Lisa. So go ahead, Paul.
Okay, so I have 2 things as a follow-up. So potentially for the rapid response people, because we're doing those in person or virtually with the company, if we want them to skip the orientation video, couldn't we potentially issue like a code for them to enter potentially?
Yeah.
So that would kind of, I don't know, that seems like an easy fix to just provide them a code at the rapid response to put in when they get to the orientation video, to skip it if they've already had the orientation at the rapid response. So that was just a comment. But this one's a little bit more, I think, complicated. So once a person fills out the pre-screening application, the state is gonna kind of push those through, right, to the correct offices.
Mhm.
So once it gets to an office, is there going to be some way that each of the offices would be able to view all the applications that came in for that office, so that we can look at it and go, okay, this application came in 5 days ago, so we need to get these processed quickly, because like in our office here, any new applications that come in, we have a pre-screening application they fill out. So when we get those pre-screening applications, our goal is to get them processed within 3 to 5 days of getting that application, or pre-screening application. So right now we're using Google Forms, and when you go into Google Forms for the responses, you can actually click on view in spreadsheet or in sheets, and it logs it all and shows you when, date stamps when they came in, and so we can identify who we need to get processed first quickly, and have a list of those people. So then if somebody calls and says, hey, I would like to know what my status is, we would go and look them up and see if they've put in an application. And then if they have, then we can track where they are in the process, in their application. So is there a way to do that for
Yes.
each area, to just click on something and say, oh, here's all the people that applied?
Yep. We'll have a dashboard row that has like open applications that need action, and we can have, we'll have then you click on that count, it'll be a number list. It'll be for your area, for those that have been assigned, a list of the applications. We want to allow you guys to close applications too. So say somebody completes the application, they meet with you and they're like, I don't want to do this, take my name off. That you can flag the application as closed to like move it out of that list, but not like lose the whole application. And then we'll have the date, like the like date completed, so you can sort to see who's completed furthest away and who recently completed. We can even do like number of days since application was completed. So you can easily at a glance see, oh, they completed that 7 days ago. We really need to like do something with it.
Okay, thank you.
And then Toriana.
Okay, I think my question is almost in line with Paul's question a little bit, his second part anyway, but a little more complicated. So I'm really just trying to understand the application part. So I understand pre-screening, I understand they get to an orientation, and then they actually submit an application. So are we considering this application as the same as the current IWDS application? And if that's the case, how does that affect, like I'm looking at it from a monitoring standpoint, we have the monitoring requirement that certification be within 30 days of the application, so those are things that when we get monitored, they look at that. So how are dates going to affect the monitoring capability? And by that, I mean, example, we get someone who applied to the program, say June, that's been our application window, but they're not starting training until, end of August, that kind of thing. So that application, we're not going to actually bring them in and certify them into the program until, 30 days prior to the start of training. So if their application was back in May, how does that, and we're not certifying until, July or August, how is that going to affect monitoring on the back end? Or is that still even going to be a thing?
It
I don't,
will be,
okay.
they're
Mhm.
discussing those time frames. So I
Okay.
think one's 30 and one's like 45. Like from
Mhm.
application to certification, no more than 30 days can pass. From certification to first enrolling, no more than like 45 days can pass. The way we're gonna handle that on the system is we'll like give you guys like expires on, this is the pre-screen. So you have, you have to touch it, and after X number of days, it expires, because we don't want just like, if somebody starts something and comes in 2 years later and tries to start again, like they should just start from scratch. For the application though, we'll have something similar. Like if you start the application and you're approaching right now it's 30, like I said, they may change that. If you're approaching that 30 days where if you don't get it certified, then it technically expires, we'll provide that information to you all, but we're not going to make you redo the application. We won't get rid of it. We will just force that you can't pick up where you left off, that all the pages have to be touched and reviewed again. So we can know that you did re-review the application, the information is still current, restart that 30-day timer. And then the same thing for eligibility certification. If you certify it and 45 days pass, from the enrolling service, then we're going to remove the eligibility certification date, and you have to re-review the data, make any updates, and recertify.
Okay, and so then that will update for example, the application. If it expires and then you bring them in, you re-review it, it's gonna be, the new application date will be the date that you re-reviewed it. Is that how
Yeah.
that's working?
Yep.
Okay.
And we'll keep a log. So like we'll see like it was initially done here, then it expired, then it was redone here. So like if you did certify and pass the 45 days, we'll see you certified. We'll see that certification also expired and had to be redone. But the big thing is we want to keep that data and not make them like re-enter everything. I know we haven't quite got to the application yet either, but we are making the application customer facing as well. And we're going to allow customers to upload documentation throughout their application. So we'll hold that documentation as well as the data. We are talking though about like how long. So obviously we want to hold it if it's only been 30 or 45 days, but what happens if they have an incomplete application and it's been a year? Like how long do we hold those before we do completely expire an application and dump the data? Those are conversations that we're looking into to determine that as it relates to the legal needs and the policy needs and reporting needs.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
On that same note, let me sway in on this as well. There's a part in IWDS where they got contact date. And how does that contact date, sometimes people come in 6, 8, 10 months ago, and they don't change the contact date. And it seems like that's such a long period of time. If they come back in again, should there be a new contact date, especially in the new system, if they come in based on how you're saying the application would change within a 30 to 45 days as the WIOLA requirement said? You kind of, after so long, you're supposed to go back, and you are correct. You got to touch back on everything that's going on with the customer to see if that person's still collecting SNAP, if the income is still met, because everything started changing to some degree. But then there's a part under the application definition, there's a part where's the location is at, the contact date, the career advisor, and something show on my application as well. Would the contact date be changed, or once that person just said hello, it's for always be there?
I think it's the latter. Where federally it's referred to as the covered person entry date, and it's the date the person made first contact with the workforce system, either physical or electronical resources. So we set that by once they, like, we would use, like, if they engaged with the submit form, the day they did that would be their contact date, or the day they were added into the IWDS system first, it would be that date. And we set that as the date that they first engage, like as we have logged for them.
And pros, they didn't do nothing. They just touched base and, okay, at the time we didn't have funded. Okay, so they came back 6 to 8 months later. So you say you still keep that same old date? Nothing
Yeah,
changed? Okay,
that's what we're doing. And that's what it's looking. It's just the first time they ever made contact with the workforce system.
okay, good.
We can talk if there's a need for that is what they federally want reported. If there's a need for you guys to have a contact date for other purposes, and we need to have something that you guys have more editing ability on, we can look at doing that as
You know
well
what?
as
Don't give us more work. Don't give us more work.
okay.
That's fine.
Perfect.
That's long we are. Everybody in our local areas is on the same page with the contact date. I'm fine with it. I'm fine. That's great. You answered the question.
Perfect. Omar and then Lisa.
Yeah, I have a question going back to the orientation and how it's becoming centralized with the pre-screening process. Now, if we get customers that are calling in, for example, or walking into our offices, do we direct them to go to this pre-screening and orientation that's online?
So you can do it two ways. If the customer comes into your office and you are able to serve them, or they want to be served, they're like, no, I don't want to do it online. You still have the ability to go into that customer. You can start the, oh, I already have an open one. You can start the pre-screening and do that with the customer.
Mhm.
You can go through that with them, answer the questions, and we don't have this all built. We've just started building some frame, and then they'd be recommended potentially eligible. We need to embed the orientation video into this. They could watch that there with you and then start the application.
Okay.
Or you could say, like, or if it was somebody who's like, I can't sit here, I need to go. Great. Here's the website you can go to and do this tonight, when you have some time to do it on your own.
Mhm.
And you don't even have, you can just say, yeah, great, like I'll send you a link. And that's where you can click send link to customer to complete on their own. It's going to send them an email. It also gives you a direct link in case you want to send it to them on like yourself or something. And you can always copy that link if they're like, hey, Omar, I didn't get that. You said you're going to email it. You can copy it and resend it to them. Sometimes people overlook stuff that's like auto sent or it goes to spam, but they would have that in their email then and be able to click that link and go through all the pages on their own.
Okay, the reason I was asking because we're thinking of even as an organization going fully online when it comes to orientation. And that like fits perfectly with what you guys are planning on doing as well. So because we're directing our customers to go online.
Perfect.
So this might be looking at what the orientation looks like and the pre-screening, maybe we can, have that as a replacement to what we're planning on doing. That's
Yeah.
what I'm asking.
Yeah, this definitely facilitates the ability to, like, if somebody calls in, you don't have to say like, oh, go figure it out on a website. You can get them added and send them to the direct link. But if somebody doesn't have the time to do that, they're like, I have 1 minute and I got to go catch a bus or I have somewhere to be. You can say, oh, check out this website. If you're interested, submit the form and you can start the process.
Okay. All right. That's helpful.
Yeah. Go ahead, Lisa, and then I will circle back to the chat questions.
Okay, that led me to actually two questions. I'm sorry. Is there a way that we can bypass the pre-screen? Like, let's say we have a customer that does come in and we've already done the pre-screening. We know that the person, it may be eligible pending documentation. can we just go ahead and bypass that pre-screen?
Right now, we don't have a way to bypass the pre-screen. One thing we do have is for a career planner, regardless of the pre-screen results, you can choose, like, say this customer was only recommended adult, but you want to enroll them under your youth 5% window, or you have some local dislocated worker policy in place you want to do, you can bypass the recommendations and start whatever application you want with them. But you can't, right now, we don't have it, so you can skip pre-screening. If that's something we need to consider, we can, but the state felt very strongly that there's other information we're going to gather around their goals and barriers that streamline the application process that we would still want them to complete in a universal system.
Okay. And then my second question was, way earlier, you mentioned that once they do this and they're selecting the office, the contact or the information is then sent to the LWIA administrator. That's not going to the actual AJCs or other offices, or is it going to like I'm just using the example LWIA 7, it's going to the partnership and then they facilitate sending it out to us? Or because I'm envisioning a bottleneck, if that's the case, of a lot of people trying to access and then having to go through one spot to then go out to the agencies. And then a second part on that, if it does just go straight to the agencies, how do we keep contact information up to date to ensure that, we're notified appropriately?
Yeah, so we're still figuring all that out. I believe we're wanting to notify the contact person of the agency it was assigned to.
Okay, not the LWIA administrator.
We probably still will notify the LWIA administrator. Christy had mentioned, I think during one of our conversations, kind of a tiered approach, so that the LWIA administrator is aware, but it would first be on the organization to take action. And if they see it lingering, I think somebody had mentioned number of days, oh, we see an application and it's been completed for 3 weeks, the Title I administrator will see everybody in their area and be able to follow up on that.
Sure.
And kind of be aware. But the way we keep contact information up to date is this is all going to be connected to entity management. So the contact and entity management, we've considered putting a additional contact in there for who would be contacted for new customers that enter the system. And that would be a space where that your guys' information in IWDS within entity management needs to stay up to date. So if it is Olivia Miller, should know it for now, but Olivia Miller's on maternity leave, then we can add Kelly for those 3 months. So there's nobody falls through the holes while Olivia's gone or Olivia takes a new role or whatever.
So we would be able to update that, or would that go
Yes.
through the LWIAs?
The offices would be able to update that in their entity, and Al's not on, but I believe there's also a tiered approach to that. So higher level, the Title I administrators can update all the offices in their area if the office themselves is not updating.
And is it only AJCs for the find an office near you? Because there's some agencies that have niche programming with specialized populations. Would they be one that a customer can pick?
I believe we would do comprehensive and affiliate offices.
Okay, so AJC associated ones.
Yes.
Okay.
If we need to expand that, though, we can. We have to do the ones that, yeah. Do we need to look at expanding that to more, Lisa?
Well, I'm honestly, I know there is plenty of comprehensive and affiliates in let's say LWIA 7, but I do know that the partnership does contract with other entities that do those niche programs. And, if there's a possibility for them to be able to, obtain customers that are interested, But this is based on location too. So like if there's an individual that might not necessarily meet their niche, if that makes sense, but
Right.
they've selected them because they're the closest, that might be confusing for the customers as well. So I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, we'll run a couple as we get into, we still have to build out these like recommendation pages and the workflow for them. We know that we want to be able to do that, but as we talk through the scenarios for the workflow for that, we will take that into consideration about those niche offices and how that would be helpful or maybe more confusing if we included those.
Right. I mean, I'm just going to use us as an example. So we have the Wheeling office, but we also, it's not, we call it an affiliate, but it's not really an affiliate, where we're located in the Education and Work Center in Hanover Park. It wouldn't show that on here. It would just show the Wheeling office, but Hanover Park is definitely a place that if an individual lives out in Streamwood, they might be more apt to wanting to participate there than, coming to Wheeling. Just using that as an example, or like if a youth individual is looking for specifically for manufacturing, we have our manufacturing careers internship program. Just throwing those
Okay.
types of scenarios out there.
Well, let me chime in too on this one because y'all brought up a good question. But when y'all were talking about the Title I administrators, that's normally going to the directors, the headshot, the bigger people who really don't see the day-to-day stuff that Lisa is talking about within a satellite site or different location and whatnot. So I'm not going to say it should not go to the Title I administrator because that's going not going to work well because they got the directors and those hierarchy people. It's not going to have time to monitor that, send out the email to the appropriate manager so stuff can get done for those clients. So it's got to be something other than the Title I administrator. It shouldn't be that because those are the higher up. Now, for Lisa thing, she's in the what they call the super local area because that combines 7, 8, and 9 or something like that. While I'm at local area 1, if I get the email, it's not going to be a problem for me to shoot it out to whoever I need to shoot it out quickly. But in a big location where Lisa is talking about, that could really be a time thing where they might not get that email for 2, 3 weeks later. And we shouldn't have the customer waiting that long of a period.
Exactly.
Well, and also, so like, even though I have the Wheeling office, we're providing services down in the south suburbs of Cook County, which is an hour away from the Wheeling office. I have staff down there, but there's no real affiliate that they're associated with. So it is a little bit trickier.
Absolutely. So I want to suggest that Title I administrator, maybe the local system administrator would be a key start along with them. But the Title I administrator, I would have to say no on that.
I'm thinking we meant the local system administrator.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
At least they have a better tie-in, and then certain areas normally have 2 local system administrators. So guess what? You have 2 people getting ready to shoot out those information to various managers and stuff because depending how that report is coming, it's just a matter to, I'm guessing, is to email it to the appropriate manager for their staff to get in contact with those clients. Is that correct?
Say that one more time. They would have to say that again.
Is there when those clients sign in and do this, how is that report generated? And then when it's sent to the local system administrator, would it be that same day? Would it be a week? This way I can send it out to the managers so the manager can inform their staff, okay, the case manager, they need to touch base with this client, or this client.
Yeah. As we put them into the system, as they move from pre-record into like IWDS customer, email would go out at like a specific time towards the end of the day that day, with a summary of everybody. That way you guys, if like 3 people or 4 people happen to come in, you're not getting tons of emails, but it would summarize and it would be on a day-to-day basis. We wouldn't make you wait a week to see who came.
Okay. Also, with the client, when they submit that stuff, would they get a notification to say how long would it take before a case manager would contact them?
Yeah,
they
so we need to write that into the content of these, and we are going back and forth on the direction of, after you complete and you're recommended eligible, they can choose to meet with career planner or do it on their own. If they choose to meet with a career planner, or when they complete the application, and then after application, they do have to meet with somebody to do eligibility certification. They can't do that on their own.
right.
Is the direction
We need a
make
time
a
period
call, they
so
call, or is it that the
I,
local calls and we
I
still
think
have
we
to make
should
that
make I
decision?
think we gotta make the local call, but that's something maybe we're gonna have to discuss, where how long from when that person client submitted, we should give them some kind of say, hey, we'll contact you within 24 hours, 48 hours,
Yes.
72 hours. So they have an idea, hey, it's going to come. And it's up to the local areas to make sure the case manager, business service people contact these people within that time period.
But
So
even so though, if there's nothing updated in the system, maybe it's they did contact them, but they haven't gotten it back from the customer. So, I mean, are the administrators then going to be looking at case notes to see if someone's contacted them? That's going to be
no,
very
no, no, no,
convoluted.
no, 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 no. I'm not saying that either. What we're saying is we send it out. The system administrator will send it to you. Okay, Lisa, it's up to you to make sure everything is done because they done their job. It's how you do it at your end to make sure those clients get contact. That's not on the system administrator. That's on
Right.
you.
I know. I'm talking about earlier, they was said, well, if nothing's done with the application in like a week, someone's contacting somebody. But what if the customer never, that happens all the time. A
Yes.
customer inquires, a customer
Yeah.
completes all this stuff. But are the administrators then going to be going in and checking case notes
No,
to make
no,
sure?
no, no, we don't
That'd be
do
a
that.
disaster.
No, we don't do it. So cross that out, Lisa.
Yeah,
We
I
don't do
know. That
that.
would be that would be
We're
very,
just going to send it out and tell them, hey, it's done. The only time system administrator look at case note is when we get a request for doing some kind of update, something I did wrong. We look at the whole picture as
or if somebody complains, I've tried to reach
right,
out, I haven't heard it back.
right,
Right.
right. But other than that,
So we had talked about earlier too. So they complete the application and then you reach out for, 5 months and nobody ever replies back, or you reach out and they say, delete me, I don't want to do this. We want to have a way in the system, and we'll need policy around this, that after X number of attempts or whatever, you guys can flag the application as like closed. So you're not having those sit out there forever, and just eventually over years, you're going to have a ton of people who, like you said, they engage and then never show back up. That row is going to be full of incomplete applications. So we want a way that you guys can easily flag that you're done with those, for the different reasons. And then as you move into eligibility determination, because that's essentially, they've completed the application. As part of eligibility determination, we have just had very basic conversations around this. There's a lot of work we still are doing, but there would be like a summary that the career planner can review of everything the customer gave, and then begin the process of verifying documentation and certifying. And we want to have ways that you guys can track that too. So that would help us also get folks out of the application pending status of saying the career planner saying like, contact made pending customer like getting back with the customer, or you are working with the customer through eligibility certification, and to help also move those out without having to rely just on case notes, but showing the customer moving out of that status into other work you guys are doing with them. A lot of it, like we can tell, like once you click review and complete the entire review, there's a lot of statuses we can automate too, to say like the review has been complete, and once you certify, we can show that too without you guys having to manually change statuses. But definitely don't want you guys to have to rely on everything being case noted and the administrators having to go in there and read all that to figure everything out, and just everybody being dumped in one place.
Thank you.
Paul, you have your hand up.
Yes. So I guess this prompted I guess a follow-up question. So if a person, starts the application, the actual application, they do the orientation video and they start the application. Let's say they complete all of the application portion as far as they can go on their own. They upload the documentation that it's asking that you can upload, right? So this application is all ready to go. So in this aspect of it, it would be then assigned somehow to the career planner, right? Okay. So in our office, we have intake staff who gets the application currently, that gets the pre-screening applications and creates the customer in the system in IWDS, and then enters in the data, and then we do the testing as part of our assessments and to put that in, right? So in essence, would then this process eliminate that portion of what if areas have it similar to ours, the intake?
Potentially a little bit. You will still have customers who say, I refuse to do it online. Like, I have parents and grandparents who will say like, I don't know how to use a computer. So your intake staff may still need to help them facilitate the online, like ask the questions and put that in. Like kind of we said career planner route, but it's not just a career planner. But to be able to like walk through and do this with them, essentially gather the data in the online form. We really want to move away from duplicate entry of paper to computer, and just it's a streamlined process, and try to get it into the system that way. And then for the assessments, we're really working. We still have a lot of work to do on assessments, but we're going to incorporate the basic skills screening tool into the pre-screening. So if a customer triggers his basic skills deficient through one of the questions on pre-screening, they will not be. We really want to make sure that TABAs and CASAS are only required in very specific situations. So the system is going to work to try to determine basic skills deficiency before we look at even trying to do a TABA CASAS for youth. And then if for adult priority, we need that only if they don't, trigger basic skills deficient any other way. And then we will know later if they're moving into training, and that TABA and CASAS will be part of the training assessment. So your intake staff may have some assessment entries they need to do, but we're really hoping the system is going to streamline that process and minimize the need to do assessments when they weren't actually needed. We've just started conversation around assessments and like really digging into those. So I don't want to speak on that too much, but I do know the intent of what we're doing in 2.0 is to streamline the assessment process to ensure we're hitting all the right assessments and minimizing doing incorrect assessments in incorrect situations.
So essentially a person could have filled out the entire application. They're going to get assigned to a career planner, but haven't done the assessment yet, but they need one. Like on the youth side, you would need that in order to certify the application. So,
yes.
So essentially then it would be after that we would schedule them to do the CASAS testing and then plug it in and then certify the application, right?
Only if they didn't trigger his basic skills screening on one of the basic skills screening tool questions we had, and it was determined they were basic skills deficient, then you would have to do the TABE and CASAS. But if they triggered that through answering the question, like we're going to have those questions baked into the pre-screening, then they're done. Like you don't have to do the TABE and CASAS at that point.
Okay.
And you would have, hopefully have a majority of their documentation uploaded by the time they're walking into the door. And you're just going to collect the last few pieces of information and any missing documentation, and then be able to certify.
Okay. Okay.
And then you would still move into doing, you know, the initial and comprehensive assessments, which we have just started the conversation around that on.
Okay. All right, cool. Thank you.
I have a couple questions in the chat. I might have missed you saying this, but as far as the application goes, are there kind of two separate yet overlapping things here, meaning that there is an application that the customer can fill out themselves, in which they can self-provide, submit their address, contact, employment, and then an application that the career planner staff completing, customer only career planners completing. So the application is the same way. We're going to build it the same way as a pre-screening to facilitate. A customer says, I'm not doing this on my own, I need like the help of a career planner to do it, or the customer chooses to do it on their own. It will all dump into the same place. So if a customer starts it on their own, it's still going to live in their profile. And for a career planner to be able to go in and see at any time, or maybe the customer gets halfway done and they say they need help, they come in. When the career planner clicks the link, it would take you right to where the customer like left off with the application. So like in this situation, this is the pre-screening, but the same would be true for the application. We'd pick you, like they pick up where they left off, so you're not having to redo anything. The customer already answered. Can the career planner reopen a closed application, or would they have to send a request to do it? If it is closed because it was certified, a request would have to happen. We are still trying to figure out what it means to fully close an application. We might expire one that you can open. But we have also talked, like, if somebody has an application that's like, 5 years old and they never finished it, when they come back in, should that even be there, or do we close it and they have to start fresh? I would be confused if I came in 5 years later and I had like, my parents' address and my maiden name. And so we're having conversation around closing, like a full close, get rid of kind of application, and what would entail with how we engage with those.
Yeah, I'd imagine there's different options. Like, do we delete it? Do we make the screens like inactive, like kind of grayed out certain fields? Would it be quote unquote expired? Would you purge it? From a data standpoint, do you just purge that record? Do you archive it, but then, or reopen it, but then it's going to automatically make you use a new, I know we were talking the differences between, quote unquote contact date, but that makes sense. There's probably a lot of things that have to be hashed out on the technical side of it as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think right now in IWDS, the applications just forever live on. But I don't know that's what we want to do in 2.0.
Yeah, like customer screens are still, the people are in there for time and memoriam, as they say.
The other comment I have, in our 9-county area, we have one AJC site. I think there needs to be an expansion for those areas that aren't populated with an abundance of AJC affiliates. Okay, that's good to know, Crystal. And because I'm assuming you're referring back to like when they're picking offices. So we, where did that go? Want to have that expanded to accommodate for being able for folks to pick offices that can serve them, especially where their offices are sparse. And then Paul said, After their orientation, our intake staff can review the application that was submitted to ensure it looks good and the documents are collected. Then it could be assigned to a career planner. If they're needing help filling out the application, we can assign the application to a career planner right away for the career planner to do the application with them, which is what we do. They do now. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Any,
That makes it more clear. And some of my questions, again, sorry, earlier, I typed them like as soon as they popped in my head so I wouldn't forget. But during the course of your, you know, explaining the screens, you answered a lot of the parts of the questions like during the course of the dialogue. So, but I appreciate you going back and clarifying that. I mean, I think ultimately it was just more like just double checking, like they can fill out only some, all kinds of screens and information, and that's good, so that they don't. We're not refilling stuff out.
right.
They're not refilling stuff. But I was like, they're not like determining their own eligibility, right? I mean, I was pretty sure no, but I just wanted to double check. Like,
Yeah,
they don't
that's
like
where the
submit it to see
self-service
like if they're
stops.
eligible, and then we have to tell them. I mean, at some point that they can only fill out certain screens, and then at some point a career planner, WEO, a staff person has to take over and actually to certify the application, collect more documents and things like that. So I just want to make sure that that was still the case.
Yeah, and I'm going to be on the agenda again. We're about at time, but I do want to walk through the rest of the intake with you guys a little bit more. Before we close today, I do want to show, so we added a new page, and you guys saw the pre-screening, and we'll keep looking at it and getting it in front of you guys and UAT to really engage with too. But we provided a couple weeks back, we did an overview and provided like an Excel sheet of the questions. We've really been hitting these hard with like the personas and like example customers and like pretending we're Maria and we're doing this and what does that mean, like how does that make sense. So we have tweaked things a little bit as like we've walked through them as various customers like, oh, we need to reword this a little bit. It doesn't fully encompass what we were trying to do, but we have like a welcome page. We're going to refine this text even more. But then one of the first pages we have before we start getting into like eligibility type of stuff is we added a getting to know you better page. And we want to ask them some questions that just help us get to know them better. And the first one is, what is your goal? Or what are your goals? I think we word it, what are some of the goals you're working towards or interested in achieving? Select all that apply. And this is where we take the bucket they picked on the submit form, and we have a list of potential goals that could hit. If they picked multiple buckets, they would see, all those different goals. We wouldn't duplicate, like some of these are in both buckets. We wouldn't duplicate them. They just see them one time. So we can learn a little bit more about the goal, like what is it they're trying to achieve. And then we ask if they picked find a job now, we wanted to ask something about like, how urgently do you need to find a job? This question came up because if we have people who, if they don't get income coming right away, they could potentially lose their house or not be able to pay for their car. Where finding a job is something they really need, to just flag that for us. That doesn't necessarily mean we can do anything about that, but we know that them finding a job is a top priority for them and can have more of a conversation about why. We also want to send them a link to some resources that can help them more immediately. So if they pick this as part of the information we would send and provide to them at the end, is like, here's some online resources that you could utilize to help help you find a job soon. And then we can link them to like the referral or the resume stuff, the Illinois job link. We're still hashing that out, but we do want to have like an action item out of somebody saying like, I need to find a job right now. And they would only say that if they picked, how can we help you? One of them was at least find a job now. If they didn't say that, if they just wanted to further my education, like we wouldn't show this question. Then we ask them, do you have a specific career goal in mind, or are you exploring your options? Select the option that best describes you. And then we bolded some that we were working through, like that's what our customer picks. I have a clear career goal and know the occupation I want. I have a general field in mind. I need help to reach my career goals. I'm exploring and I'm unsure. If they pick, and this just helps us better understand like their mind frame so we can tailor the conversation with them when we do meet with them. But if they pick, I have a, like they know the occupation, then they would see the next question would be like, what career do you have in mind? Pick your top 3. And we would allow them to search the various occupations, wrong screen. They could, we have a occupation search that would pull up a modal, and they could type in occupations and see listing by job families and select the 3 that are most relevant to them and order them. Again, we're just starting to piece this page together, but they could pick. So when we meet with them, we know, oh, hey, Maria's interested in being a registered nurse. Obviously, right here we can see she's really interested in, working in healthcare. If they said that they have a general field in mind, then we ask them to pick a career field. So we would show them the career clusters or the job families. Instead of drilling down to the occupational level, we would just have them pick their top 3 fields they're interested in to help our conversation with them later. And then we ask, is there anything preventing you from reaching your goal? I think we did choose to change this question to do any of these apply to you? Select all that apply. Because just so we're gonna have things here. This is where we're gonna like embed the basic skills screening tool. So we'll have things like, I have a hard time using a calculator, or like doing math and dividing by 3 digits, or like some things like that. So we're gonna take those and embed those into here. And we'll also have things like, I need help with childcare, I am pregnant or parenting. A lot of our when we think about the youth eligibility, we're going to have a lot of the things here, like I'm homeless, things that we don't want to call them barriers or challenges, but that we might need to be aware of to help them in their education or training journey. And we are wording it, do any of these apply to you? Because just because I am pregnant doesn't mean that I necessarily think that will be like what is preventing you from reaching your goal. Or if we word it that way, they might not see it that way. And we're more wanting to know, like, what are all the things going on in their life that we want to be aware of to help them be as successful as possible. So that'll be the final question on this page to help us get to know them a little better before we start asking about the basic eligibility. So we are right at time. I do want to pause if anybody has any questions. Definitely feel free to put those in the chat. If you guys have to jump off because it's time, you have other meetings, totally understand, but I do have a little bit more time if anybody has questions. We do have a question in the chat. So if someone answers no to the basic skills test, then they don't have to be tested on the Tabor classes. Yeah. So if somebody flags, like if we have like I have trouble doing math and dividing by 3 digit, whatever that like those are, if they pick that is something that applies to them, they're flagged as basic skills deficient and they don't need the Tabor classes to show that. Any others? Even though it's entry training, no. Further into we are not determining that at intake anymore. Once we build a career plan, we'll determine if they're going to do training, and that will trigger that they need a training assessment. We're going to build a training assessment. So that'll be kind of a newer thing. And as part of that, it will look for the TAB and CASAS at that time. We're only at intake looking at basic skills screening or basic skills deficient for priority of service and for youth eligibility. So if it's an adult and they don't hit priority of service in any other way, you have the option to do the TAB and CASAS and flag them as basic skills deficient that way. Or if they're a youth and they're not eligible any other way, you have the option to do the basic skills efficient, the assessments, and flag them as basic skills efficient that way. No, I'm glad you clarified the training point. That's perfect.
But I'm sorry, do we have the ability to still put it in even if they themselves think that they're not basic skills deficient? They filled out that screening tool. But they did end up going through the CASAS testing. Will we still be able to put it in even if they said that they're
Yeah.
not? Okay.
Yeah, you can still have the results. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? All right, well, we'll go ahead and wrap up here for the day. I do want to get on the agenda when I have a little bit more information put together around eligibility certification and kind of talk through this application process with you all, so that we can get your thoughts and feedback on that. I'm going to try to get on next week and at least talk about it at a high level. So as we continue through that discovery, we have your thoughts and feedback in mind. But I want to make sure that none of our other BAs have more pressing items they need to get in front of you first. So definitely look forward to meeting with you all again next week and appreciate all your time and feedback today. Thank you,
Likewise for
everyone.
you, likewise to you too as well. Thank you for putting this together. It's like what you said earlier, this is over 58 session.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Ooh, I hope when we get ready that we get a couple, 2 or 3 weeks or maybe a month just to practice in the new system. Because
Oh,
wow,
yeah.
this is a lot of information, and for both, all the help you did and everybody else that's part of this thing is very time consuming, but appreciated very much for what y'all guys are doing and trying to make our local area much better and serving people.
Thanks, Robert. I
You're
hope you all have
welcome.
a great rest of your day.
You too. Take
Take
care.
care.